I'm from Nashville, so I'm a fellow Southerner. I'm seeing a lot of, well, first of all, I'm seeing a lot of white people here. Let's see, am I only seeing white people here? Okay, fair enough. I went to college in Johnson City, so I remember, I know. But all that say, I also see a lot of fellow white men, so you guys will appreciate this. I heard a racial slur the other day that I didn't know existed, and as white men from the South, people feel comfortable telling you. All of them. So that was a shock for me. This guy came up to me and he bumped into me and was like, "Shh, whatever, Taco Bell." And I was like, "Excuse me, sir, I'm Italian. It's Papa John's to you, okay?" I'm a Christian. Do I have any other Christians in the room? Is this okay? Look at us in Bible Belt South. I didn't want anyone to feel uncomfortable. I'm not going to pull a gun back. Are you sure? But I am a Christian. I'm also a single Christian, and the reason I say that is I think I'm done dating Christian women. I think that's where I'm at now. I think, and I'll tell you why. The last Christian girlfriend I had, when she broke up with me, she said, and I quote, "It's God's will for us not to be together." You all, she literally holy ghosted me, is what I'm saying. Thank you. Some people go for the applause, but I go for the one lady in the back saying, "That's good." And then her friend turning to her and saying, "I agree." And now I'm going to listen, because if that friend doesn't agree on the next time, I'm going to be offended, just so you guys know. That's what you do in comedy. You break the fourth wall very frequently. Let them know that you are a human with feelings. I didn't want you guys to think I'm too lame with the ladies, though. I feel like I need to impress you all. We're now friends. So not too long. It doesn't always work poorly for me. Not too long ago, I saw this beautiful woman. So I said, "Hey, we should go out on a date sometime." She said, "Sure. Where should we go?" And I said, "I don't know. I've never made it to this point in the conversation before." Okay, I get it. I confused half of you all when I said I was into women. All right, I know. I've heard my voice. I see how I stand. I know. I have a high voice. I sound like every black comedian when they're impersonating a white person. I've never met my biological father, but if I had to guess, I'd say John Lovitz. What do you guys think? See it? Thank you. A mean YouTube comment said I looked like Jimmy Kimmel's nephew, is what they told me. Recently, speaking of mean comments, I had on one of my descriptions on social media, it says former youth pastor turned stand-up comedian. That wasn't a joke. That was just my life. And this lady messages me and she says, "Former youth pastor turned stand-up comedian. Could you be a bigger loser?" Right? How rude and wrong, because if she did any research, she'd know that I also used to play guitar in a Christian punk rock praise band. And I run a Fast and Furious podcast. So, could I be a bigger loser? Easily. Without breaking a sweat. It is true, though. I feel like I might have peaked in high school, but I am a lead guitar player from a Christian punk rock praise and worship band back in high school. That's a lot of words you've never heard together. And it said, lead guitar player, punk rock, Christian praise and worship band. And I know, ladies, not exactly the sexiest thing you've heard tonight. All right, I know. I get it. I'm in the present too. But years ago, when I was in high school, I thought that was the sexiest thing about me. I was like, this is how you get the ladies. That's why I picked up the guitar. I saw an 80s music video, and I was like, that's what's missing. And I used to argue with my friends at church camp. We'd be at church camp, we'd be into the same ladies, and so the guys would be like, "Oh no, man, she just seems more into me." I was like, "Yeah, but you just wait till she hears my guitar solo at tonight's worship night." And I remember that year, it was my junior year in high school, and she did hear that guitar solo later that night. And 2 years later, she became a lesbian. So, if I can't have her, no man can. Of course, whenever I tell people I used to be the lead guitar player in a Christian punk rock band, their first question is always, "Oh, what was your band name?" If I could change any one part of history. So it was me and 4 other high school boys, and we named our band Vertical Motion. That cringe? Correct. Yes. Correct. We, at the time, were like, yeah, we're 4 high school guys. We're going to heaven. Vertical Motion. It's all, you might as well have just called us the Virgin Marys. Let's be honest. That would have been a more fitting. But you know what? Here's a more fun, kind of a fun fact for you. I graduated Brentwood High School from Brentwood, Tennessee in 2006. But do you know who else graduated Brentwood High School in 2006? Yes. It's rare that people know the answers, but they've been to my shows before. Sorry. For those of you that aren't going to finish my punchlines for me. Yes, Kesha, singer-songwriter pop sensation Kesha, graduated Brentwood High School in 2006. Do you think I ever come up in that conversation? Do you think when people in Brentwood are bragging and they're like, yeah, Kesha graduated here from 2006, but you know who also graduated here? The lead guitar player from Vertical Motion. I don't think so. So before I was a comedian, I was a youth pastor for 15 years. That's a weird, thank you, 3 of you. You're kind of like pity clapping me, but you know what, I'll take it. Listen, I just want you all to know I understand how weird it is for a man to come up here and tell you he used to be a youth pastor, okay? That's a job where if someone says they are a youth pastor, good for you. When you say you used to be a youth pastor, everyone in the International Storyteller is asking, why used? What happened? So let me just go ahead and ease all of your minds. 2 questions you're wondering. Yes, I still believe in God. And no, I didn't do that. Thank you. Listen, I want to tell myself you're clapping a great joke. But you also just might be anti-creepy youth pastors. Both? Okay, I like, thank you. Is it both, other lady? Do you agree? Okay, good, awesome. So here's the thing. I actually started as a youth pastor in Kingsport, Tennessee when I was 19 years old, being in college. I went to Milligan University. I got my first job as a youth pastor at 19 years old in Kingsport, Tennessee. And yes, that is incredibly young to be a youth pastor.
What were they thinking?
They were thinking you could get a really cheap youth pastor. And boy, were they right. And like, that's too young. Like, kids would ask me like deep God theological questions when I was 19. I was like, that's a great question. Let me go call my youth pastor. But then I went from being a 19-year-old child prodigy youth pastor to somehow keeping my career going to becoming one day a 35-year-old single youth pastor. And somehow that's worse. Like, let's just be honest. There were several of you that clapped as a Christian, as you are a Christian. As Christians, we want our youth pastors as God intended them, married and not creepy, okay? And listen, I was not creepy, but I could not help but look creepy being a youth pastor, okay? For example, like there's just things about my job that single dudes just can't get away with, okay? For example, if you're ever a youth pastor, one of the most important things you do is you go and support your students at their extracurricular activities. So it's not like uncommon when I was a youth pastor, I would go to band concerts, I would go to musicals, I would go to middle school girls volleyball games. Just looking like this. I'd go sit up in the bleachers with the rest of the mothers. Our team would score and we'd cheer, yay, good job, ladies. And they'd look at me and be like, oh, which one's yours? And I would be like, none of them. And I've learned the only thing creepier is if I was like, all of them. In the eyes of the Lord. That's a weird joke. I think we all admit, that's a weird thing to laugh at. I did eventually have to quit because I went full-time comedy, which was really cool. And so I remember, and this is a little bit arrogant on my part, but I was so nervous for the church and the pastor that I was leaving. Like, I was like, what are they going to do? Jesus is going to have to come back early because, I mean... And so I remember I sat down with the pastor. I was telling him the whole, the whole everything, why I was leaving ministry to become a comedian, how I felt the Spirit was leading me. I was using all the church, buzzwords. I was really making it work. And he was quiet the whole time. I was like, oh my gosh, I broke him. Like, he needs a pastor to talk to, but I'm leaving. Who's he going to talk to? And then after a while, I was like, so what do you think? And I'll never forget the 2 words that my senior pastor told me when I said I was leaving full-time ministry to become a comedian. He said, and I quote, "Thank God." Which was humbling. Listen, you can get in trouble at church. You can get in trouble if you say the wrong thing at church. For example, this was something people used to tell me all the time, and I really didn't like it. And one time I got in trouble for my response. So they would always come up to me on a Sunday morning service when I was a youth pastor, like, hey, so when are you becoming a real pastor? And one time I was like, I don't know, when are you becoming a real Christian? That's why I'm not a youth pastor anymore. But I do like to play a fun game at church. And now I try to be sympathetic to anyone here who's not a Christian. You're like, when's the church jokes in the end? Well, here's a tip if you're ever at church and you don't want to be there. It's a fun little game you can play. It's called Inappropriate Things Old Women Tell You at Church. You can make up your own point system. You can play with your friends. It's cool. So here's the best one I've got. This is the one to beat. So several years ago, this woman came up to me at church. She said, hey, Drew, I've been noticing you've been doing a lot of stand-up comedy and traveling and doing all these open mics and telling jokes. What's all that about? This was a while ago. So I was like, I don't know. I love stand-up comedy. I've been really getting more into it. And I don't know, maybe one day it'll become like a real job. And she said, well, just remember, if you're not getting paid for it, it's not a real job. And I was like, yeah, but aren't you a stay-at-home mom? Not as many applauses for that one. And she looked at me and she said, I am, son, and you need to move out. So, thank you. So if anyone has a room I can crash at tonight. So here's what I've learned about me as a Christian is I have some controversial Christian opinions. And if it's okay with you guys, I'd like to share my most controversial opinion here at the International Storytelling Room. Okay, cool. Here it is. I believe with all my heart and everything that I am, deep in my soul, that Chick-fil-A is just okay. Thank you. Okay. I had applause over here. I had guns loading over here. Now, have you ever noticed how much Christians brag about going to Chick-fil-A? Yeah. It's like a rite of holiness, isn't it? It's like, they're like, I went to Chick-fil-A 4 times last week. As if I'm supposed to be like, wow, you must have wrote the Bible. And yet, it does not work the other way around. I can't be like, oh yeah? Well, I went to McDonald's 4 times last week. They're like, we can tell. And you should stop. Look, Chick-fil-A, they're fine. I do enjoy their chicken, but my beef with Chick-fil-A, if you will, you don't have to laugh at that joke. That one was for me. My problem is, all they do is chicken. And that's fine, but, come on. You don't know this about me, but I make really good mac and cheese, all right? The secret is I add bacon bits to the Easy Mac containers. Whew, game changer. You're welcome. Laughs and food tips. You guys picked a great Saturday night. Yeah, I make good mac and cheese, but I'm not going to go open up a restaurant calling it Living Velveeta Loca and then have the audacity to tell you that I'm serving you the Lord's noodles, okay? Now, you know what restaurant is honest to a fault and should get way more credit than they do, honestly. My favorite restaurant, since you're asking with your eyes, my favorite restaurant is Little Caesars Pizza. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think we're best friends now. I think you're going to be the best man in my wedding once I pay a woman to marry me. I like it. We're going to have you'd make a good bachelor party. Listen, I love Little Caesars. Their motto, hot and ready. Good's not even part of it. They don't care. Before hot and ready was their motto, it was just pizza, pizza. Someone was like, do you think we should add delicious to it? No. I kind of think I'm the Little Caesars of comedy. I'll take that title. Instead of hot and ready, you could call me hot and sweaty. Some of you are like, he wasn't even that good. How much did you pay? I showed up. And I'm like the middle. It's like, it'll get better after this. Like, this is... Thank you. Thank you. Should we put very... No, just funny. Instead of hot and ready, how about just on time and friendly? Look, I could talk all day about Little Caesars. I do have jokes about other things. I want you guys to know that if you're like, is he just gonna do another 30 hours of Little Caesars jokes? Could he? Yes. Is he? No. But I do feel like I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that about their secret menu item. Which, yes, I look like a guy that knows Little Caesar's secret menu. So everyone knows that the best thing they have is their crazy bread, which is like that garlic bread with the garlic and Parmesan topping on it. But did you know you could get that topping on any pizza you want?
Yes.
Good. Glad. I like. You can come to my wedding that he's planning, where it's catered by Little Caesars. It's going to be great. Still got to pay a woman to marry me. But so... The thing is this a hard item to order because it's called a heart attack. That's kind of weird to order to another adult in public. I went to Little Caesars last week because I live a good life, and I went in and I asked the cashier, I said, hey, I'd like a pepperoni pizza with a heart attack, please. And she just looked me up and down. She's like, you'll get there. I don't think anyone's surprised I just did about 5 to 10 minutes of food jokes, right? When I got up here, you weren't like, he's going to tell jokes about having lots of money and a hot girlfriend. None of you. But when I started talking about Chick-fil-A, you're like, that makes sense. I am getting to the weight where people feel comfortable telling me I'm fat. And I don't much appreciate their tone sometimes. Not too long ago, I was bowling. Again, not trying to brag about my life, but I was bowling. And 2 lanes over, this middle school girl yells at me. She says, hey, you have the body type of a professional bowler. So I did what any of us would have done. And I went home and I changed my Tinder dating profile to body type athletic. Bowling's a sport. It counts. Here's a new one for me. I travel a lot because of comedy, and I drive, and it would look weird if I always went to Little Caesars and just had a whole pizza just as I'm eating. So I have to find a different food to eat. So my go-to travel food is Arby's. I love Arby's. Do we have any Arby's fans? Okay, yeah, there we go. So I was at Arby's, like I always am. And so I always order my #1 beef and cheddar combo, and then they always say, would you like regular or large? And I always say regular, and then I get to watch them press backspace. And then this one time, I feel like all I'm doing is bragging about my life, but I was at Subway, and I almost got in a fight with the cashier. But in my defense, it was her fault. I'm minding my own business, living in America, a country of the free, where you can do whatever you want and get whatever kind of sandwich you want without any condescension from the other side. And so I said, I'd like a chicken sub with mayo on it. Not too hard to make. She looked at me, and without even asking, she grabbed the light mayo. And I gave her a look. I said, do I look like a light mayo kind of guy, kind of you? And she gave me a look that says, you look like you bowl. That's a gamble joke, because if you didn't like the first one, then that's a big build up to nothing else. So I'm glad we got through that one you guys are so nice. You're so friendly. I always like to take a moment to look around at this wonderful audience that we have, and especially acknowledge the beautiful women that are in this audience. Let's give the ladies a hand for existing. Can we do that? That was a little pathetic. Not gonna lie. It sounds like we need some therapy for the majority of the ladies that are in this room right now. Here's why I do that. One, I don't know if y'all know this, but women are responsible for 80% of comedy ticket sales. So, like, I'm grateful you're here, all right? Yeah, and two, you're really responsible for the other 20% because most of the guys just want to get with the ladies, so thank you. But I've just learned me and my crowd and how I'm perceived well enough to know that I always need to look at the ladies in this room and look at you, like, to the eye and be like, I'm not a creepy person. And I know that's what creepy people say. But I promise I'm like a nice boy. Also what creepy people say. Here's my problem. I mean you all nothing but no harm. I was about to say nothing but harm, but that's not. It's just, I have good intentions. Often the things I say or do come across way wrong. And I'm working on it, all right? I'm working on myself. But I'll give you guys a couple examples because some of you don't look convinced. You look incredibly convinced. You're like, yeah, that makes sense. So a while back, I was back in Nashville. I was performing at a really sketchy dive bar, not as nice as the International Storytelling Center that we have here. It was a really sketchy dive bar, the kind where, like, when you stand against the wall, it feels like you're on Velcro, right? You know, it's gross. But not a seat to be found. Full house. So I was waiting in the back, waiting to tell my jokes. I was right next to one of those little high top tables, and this beautiful woman comes over to me. She looks me in the eyes and she puts her drink down. She says, "May I leave my drink here?" Now, hindsight, what I should have said, absolutely, no problem, go for it. But I want her to feel safe in this really sketchy dive bar. So I looked her in the eyes and I said, "Yeah, I won't drug it." Yeah, she picked her drink up and went to a different table. Thank you. I went to school here. I know that's Southern for please never talk to me after the show. Oh, okay. I wish I could say that was the creepiest thing I've ever said to a lady. But I did confess to being a pastor in a previous job, so I feel like I need to be honest with you all. This is the creepiest thing I've ever said to a woman. Years ago, I was at a comedy festival. Everyone was performing. It was a great show. The woman that performed right before me, I am not exaggerating when I say she's the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen in my entire life. Drop dead gorgeous. Now, in order for this joke to make sense, I have to tell you guys two things about her routine. Number one, she mentioned she's Italian. As you remember from my previous jokes, so am I, okay? Number two, now this is a little weird. Stay with me, Jonesborough. We'll just have to ride this bump together. But her entire routine was about incest. Y'all, she was so hot. We were all kind of like, eh. Anyway, so she performed. She did great. Not long after that, I got up there and I performed, and I killed. So great. I got at least 2 laughs. I mean, I was killing it. I was just thinking, this is great. So I thought to myself, if I ever had a chance with this woman, tonight's the night, right? So after the show, I go find her and I go talk to her. And fellas, a lot of you can relate. You got to say that super smooth and sexy thing, right? So these were the words that left my mouth to this lady. I said, "Hey, I'm Italian, so it's like we're family." So yeah, that's how I met my wife. No one ever believes me when I say that. You guys are a super fun crowd. You're so nice. You laugh. You're here. I love it. You all seem like wonderful people. What that tells me about you, though, is that means 100% none of you are comedians. What that tells me is you're all nice people. But if you I know everyone in this one, so I'm not gonna talk to you guys. But I don't know you guys. Like, are we a friend group? Have you met each other? No? Oh, goodness. Okay, well, okay. Did you guys come as a friend group? You shrugged when you said that. He's like, I was their friend until they made me come to a comedy show and I had to hear this weird guy talk to me. Now I'm not so sure. Okay, so, well, you're killing my joke, all right? So,
yes,
thank you. That's give it up for him for knowing how to as a friend group, this is like, so if you were having a rough time, your friends might come around you and be like, hey man, after you shared this terrible story of what's going on, we're here for you. We're praying for you. We got your back. That's what good friends do. But if they were comedians, that is not what they would do. Here's how it would go down. You'd share about your tough life, your what's going on, this big situation, and they'd be like, you should tell that on stage. So this is the story that all my comedian friends from Nashville said I needed to come tell in Jonesborough at the International Storytelling Festival. It is a story, and I'm at a storytelling event, which I think is pretty cool. This is the story of the worst date I've ever been on in my entire life. It was about 12 years ago, back in Nashville, Tennessee. I took my girlfriend at the time to go see her favorite comedian, Adam Devine. Have you guys ever heard of Adam Devine? Yeah? Okay, wonderful. She, huge fan. So I was like, this is a super killer boyfriend move. Like, I'm killing it, crushing it, doing it great. And we go see Adam. Great show. We go meet Adam Devine after the show. Get a picture with Adam Devine, killing it on the boyfriend friend. We're walking back to my car, and she stops mid-walk, and she says, Adam Devine just invited me back to his hotel room, so I'm gonna go. Now, just so we're clear, that's when the date ended. Because I couldn't be like, oh, can I come? No. And I want to prepare you all, if this ever happens to you, the worst part isn't actually that moment. It's the next day when you have to go back to work and all your friends who knew you were doing this big date are like, hey, how'd your big date go? Pretty good for her. This is what I actually said. I gave her a night she'll never forget. They were like, yeah, you did. It was a really hard moment for me because Adam Devine was a hero of mine. And you can tell by my everything, especially my t-shirt, that I love heroes. I love superheroes. Since you're asking with your eyes, my favorite superhero is The Flash. I love The Flash. I've always been a fan. When I was a kid, I used to read The Flash, everything. My one critique with The Flash was I thought all of his villains were one-dimensional, right? So, for example, his arch nemesis, and I promise this applies, his arch nemesis was this guy named the Reverse Flash, and his whole deal is he used to love The Flash. He used to idolize The Flash. He used to want to be The Flash. He was The Flash's biggest fan. And then he met The Flash, and The Flash stole his moment of glory, and in that moment, the Reverse Flash was like, I'm going to kill him. And when I was a kid, I was like, that's a dumb storyline. But then I met Adam Devine. And now I think I'm Team Reverse Flash. Now, I hate to break the trust that we've built in this room, but this isn't the first time I've told these jokes. A few weeks ago, I told them at a different place, and this guy came up to me after the show. He said, hey, you said The Flash was your favorite superhero, right? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, did you know that in Lego Batman, the Flash is voiced by Adam Devine? He stole my girlfriend and my superhero. It's just so we're keeping track. Now, this is a nice Christian room. And I can feel you guys. I'm an empath. I feel a lot of you saying, Drew, this was 12 years ago. Forgive him. Like, move on. Like, stop letting this hurt. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, that's right. But the thing is, like, little things keep happening. Like, he doesn't know I exist, but he knows I exist, all right? Little things keep happening. For example, 6 years ago, I was a youth pastor. I was teaching Sunday school, as I did every Sunday. My kids came into my Sunday school class, and they said, hey, Drew, have you seen that new TV show, Righteous Gemstones? And I said, yeah, I haven't, actually. Tell me about the show. And they said, well, it's a great show. It has a lot of church satire. We think you'd really like it. In fact, we think you'd really identify with the youth pastor character. And I said, who plays the youth pastor? And they said,
You need some new friends.
I do. I agree. But it gets worse, man. Because one child of God looked at me in my Sunday school class and said, yeah, I think Adam Devine would be a better youth pastor than you. Oh. So I did the most Christian thing I could think of, and I kicked him right out of church. No, sir. Best believe if I could turn someone to a pile of salt, I would have then and there. But I hear what you're saying, that I need new friends. And this is something my current friends told me to try to help me feel better. And I want to share it with you guys. I said, Drew, you're looking at this all the wrong way. That was 12 years ago. You're the comedian now. You're performing at the International Storytelling Center in Jonesborough on a Saturday night. You're out there killing it. Thank you. My friends, they told me, dude, it's your turn to go perform at a comedy club and go back to your hotel room with someone else's girlfriend. And y'all, I don't think that's me, honestly. I'm not the kind of comedian that can go back to his hotel room with someone else's girlfriend. I don't even want to be that kind of comedian. I want to be the kind of comedian that can afford a hotel room. You all have been absolutely amazing. I've been Drew. Thank you so much.